amazing service for so many years, leading the community here. Very grateful to both of these wonderful souls, and thank you so much for allowing us to be here and be part of your community. At this time, we feel very grateful and very honored. Hare Krishna. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Janavalabha Girivaradari Gopi Janavalabha Girivaradari Jashoda Nandana Braj Janaranjana Jashoda Nandana Braj Janaranjana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Radha Gopi Janavalabha Girivaradari Gopi Janavalabha Girivaradari Gopi Janavalabha Jashoda Nandana Braj Janaranjana Jashoda Nandana Braj Janaranjana Jashoda Nandana Braj Janaranjana Jashoda Nandana Braj Janaranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Vanachari Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajikacharya Stotra Satis Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai BBT Founder Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai Nam Acharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai Pramsikaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopa Gopinath Shama Kund Radha Kund Giri Govardhana Ki Jai Shri Vrindavan Dham Ki Jai Mayapur Navadvip Dham Ki Jai Ganga Mai Ki Jai Jamuna Mai Ki Jai Tulsi Devi Ki Jai Bhakti Devi Ki Jai Shri Shri Radha Sham Sundar Ki Jai Shri Nimai Nitai Ki Jai Jai Nitai Gauda Premanandi All glories to the assembled devotees All glories to the assembled devotees All glories to the assembled devotees All glories to the lotus feet of Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga All glories to Srila Prabhupada Om Gyanatimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurumilitangena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Gena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Gurun Shri Yuta Parakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dina Bandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurange Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasati Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. All together. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So once again, it is a great honor and privilege to be here, and I would like to also thank all of you for taking your valuable time to be here. I'm sure in Bergen County you could be doing so many things on a Sunday evening other than sitting in this room, but you've chosen to be here. So I would like to congratulate and thank all of you for doing that. It's not always so easy to choose Krishna in material life. In life in general, there are many choices. Every moment we're given the opportunity of making a choice, and all of you made the choice to be here. So thank you. Thank you very much for doing that. Hare Krishna. Otherwise, I'd be sitting here on my own. I wouldn't have anything to do. So I'm very grateful to all of you. I also wanted to comment that having darshan of the deities here is very special. My experience while having darshan of these very beautiful deities was that they're all fighting to see who can smile the most. I was thinking, because often when you go somewhere, especially Gaura Nitai, it's usually Gaura or Nitai, one or the other, is a little more extravagant or beautiful. And so I was looking to see who is more prominent here. Is it Nimai or is it Nitai? And of course I'm biased. My name is Jai Nitai. So I'm often looking directly at Lord Nityananda thinking, come on, Nitai. And today I was like, wow, they are just both ecstatic, equally ecstatic. And then I thought, oh, let me have a look at Krishna. And I thought Krishna is more ecstatic than Nimai and Nitai. And then Radharani's like, even more ecstatic. And I thought everyone here is so happy. And I could only think that the community here are showering them with so much love and devotion that they're just extremely blissful. So their merciful smiles and glances are pouring over all of you and enthusing and exciting you, and at the same time you're enthusing and inspiring and exciting them. So this is the loving reciprocal relationship of bhakti. This is what is so attractive. So again, thank you. Hare Krishna. So I was asked to speak on the topic of Shravan. Is that correct? Shravanam? And this is the beginning. You're going to start a series. So every week speaking on one of the 9 processes of devotional service. So actually this topic is so vast, and several times I thought where to start, where to begin. Of course, in the list of 9, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu Smaranam, we know that Shravanam is the first, but often within our movement, within our communities, most emphasis seems to be given to Kirtanam. Let's chant the holy names. Often we try to encourage everyone to chant. So sometimes we might think, Shravanam is okay, but let me have some Kirtanam. And just yesterday I was conducting a japa workshop, and I really like to conduct japa workshops. I really like to focus on chanting japa, chanting the holy name, this private quality time with Krishna. This is something that is often not so emphasized. Coming together for kirtan, we bomb together, but when we have to chant our japa, I've never seen devotees fall asleep in kirtan. But I have many times seen devotees fall asleep during japa, and myself included. So like that, kirtanam is very important. But we wouldn't know to kirtanam if we hadn't Shravanam. And I was thinking how, of course, there's a saying that when it comes to listening, we have 2 of these and only 1 of these, right? So we should always listen twice as much as we speak. But most of the time, these are off duty, and this is always going on, right? So sometimes chanting turns into chatting. So it's very, very important, vitally important to hear. And of course, Srila Prabhupada explained that it is this sound vibration. I love, we do service in 26 Avenue at Matchless Gifts, which is an immense benediction to be in this holy holiest of holy tirthas in serving, and sometimes listen to the original recording that Srila Prabhupada did where he speaks. He says, this transcendental sound vibration is emanating from directly from the spiritual world. So this sound vibration, and it enters into our ear holes and into our hearts, and it's performing the Cheto Darpana Marjanam, right? Srinvata Swakata Krishna. So when we hear this Krishna Katha, personally hearing Krishna's name going into our hearts and cleaning away lifetimes of unwanted things. So the Shravanam process is crucial for all of us. So there are many verses. I chose 2 verses. I don't know how many of you, just looking at this verse up here, who is familiar with this verse? Who knows what's coming? Okay. Who's not familiar with this verse and doesn't know what's coming? Okay. And who won't raise their hand no matter what I ask? Okay. So I like to get everyone involved. So you can alternate hands and you'll get like some extra aerobic exercise in. Okay, so we will, in the interest of time, we will just read first the translation. I'm going to read 2 verses. So this is from 4th Canto, text 20. These are prayers from Prithu Maharaj. He is offering these prayers at the end of performing his yajna. And these 2 verses are very special. So I'll just read the translation for the first one, and then text 25, we'll read the translation and purport. My dear Lord, I therefore do not wish to have the benediction of merging into your existence, a benediction in which there is no existence of the nectarian beverage of your lotus feet. I want the benediction of at least 1 million ears, for thus I may be able to hear about the glories of your lotus feet from the mouths of your pure devotees. So here we see, and I'm really happy that went off, you reminded me, because Prabhuji said you requested everyone to turn off their phones, right? So I just wanted to share, because you were doing, and by the way, congratulations on, I think you got like 13 boxes sponsored. That's amazing. And that happened in 10 minutes. I mean, that was pretty good. And in London, where I served, we realized telling people to turn their phones off was of absolutely no use. So I used to tell them to turn your phone on as loud as possible, because during the class, if your phone goes off, you sponsor a Bhagavad Gita. But here, if your phone goes off during this talk, you sponsor 1 box of Bhagavad Gitas. So please, everyone, turn your phones on. And as soon as you say that, everybody turns their phone off. It's ironic, reverse psychology. So, that was your phone, right? You're on first warning, okay? So, Prithu Maharaj here is praying for millions of ears to hear. And he wants to hear, actually, what does he want to do with his ears? It's very interesting what Prithu Maharaj wants to do with his ears. It's not what you would think someone does with their ears. What does he want to do with his ears? He wants to hear the glories of the Lord, but he describes it differently. He wants to drink. He wants to drink the nectarian beverage, right? He wants to drink the nectarian beverage. You don't usually drink with your ears. I mean, maybe some of you, I don't know, we won't get into it, but most people are drinking with their mouths. He wants to drink with the ears. Of course, sometimes all of us will have a different beverage that we may like to drink, and we think, oh, that's so good. And a hot day, it may be a nimbu pani or mango lassi, or in the winter it may be a warm drink, and when we taste it, it's like, so refreshing. But we want to drink with the ears. We want to hear. So Sravana means that we're not just hearing, but we're actually drinking. And we drink. Water is, I think, if I'm not mistaken, in Hindi or Sanskrit, sometimes water is referred to jivan, right? Means like life. So we're made up 75-80% water, and we have to drink water. So we should be drinking through our ears as the sustenance of life. This hearing goes on, and the more that we hear, the more that we relish. And the more that we forget, time goes out the window. Our Acharya for hearing, who is the Acharya for hearing? Yes, Parikshit Maharaj is the Acharya for hearing. He is every one of the 9 processes has a specific personality related. And Parikshit Maharaj is the personification of hearing. He was on the verge of death. On the verge of death. And we can imagine, even for one moment, and this is another aspect of hearing, is that Parikshit Maharaj, what is the situation in which Parikshit Maharaj is hearing? We're all sitting here. I don't know everyone's situation, but it is maybe unlikely anyone knows that they're going to leave their body in 7 days. Parikshit Maharaj knows in 7 days, that's it for me. And in 7 days, there's so many things you could do. If you found out, if you were given the notice that in 7 days you're not going to be here anymore, this body is going to be finished. In England, the Pandavasena, the youth group, they did this 24 hours to live. They went on the street with a camera and they videoed people and asked them, what would you do if you found out you only had 24 hours to live? What do you think number 1 was?
Be with the family.
Be with the family. They obviously didn't ask Hare Krishna devotees. Number 1 was go shopping and max out my credit card. That's how people think. Number 2, I won't mention in such good company. And family was way down the list. So the consciousness of what people do if they find out that they're at the end of their life, I don't think anyone said, go to the bank of the Ganga and hear Bhagavatam. But Parikshit Maharaj, who was not a poor man, extremely wealthy, prestigious, so much opulence, so much opportunity. He could do anything, but what did he do? He went to the bank of the Ganga and he wanted to hear. He wanted to hear. At the time of death, many of us may be thinking as devotees, what situation do we want at the time of death? We want to have devotees around us chanting the holy name so that we can hear the holy name. I was with His Holiness Sachinandan Maharaj in Jagannath Puri one year for the Jagannath Puri Rath Yatra, for a yatra, and he was sharing with everyone how he was giving some classes and talks in Croatia. And in between the talks, after lunch, he would go out into the sea and go swimming. And one day, he was swimming and the tide became very strong and it actually started pulling him further out to sea. And he said after some time, he realized he was swimming and the current was so strong that he was becoming tired. And he was getting further and further away from the land, and he realized the devotees on land were busy doing their thing and they weren't paying attention to Maharaj. And he said, and I was way out there, kind of waved my hand, but it was... And he said, in that moment I realized all my life I've been talking about chanting, encouraging devotees to chant, and I thought at the time of death I will give up my body in Vrindavan surrounded by devotees chanting the holy names. He said, and here I am about to die like a German tourist in the sea with no devotees. So we want to be hearing. at the time of death. We want to be surrounded by devotees who are pouring the nectar of the holy name into our ears. Why? So that we can smaranam. Because this hearing, Shravanam, is the foundation of all the other 9. It is simply by Shravanam, by hearing, that we understand and are able to implement the other 8 processes of bhakti, of devotional service. So we see here Prithu Maharaj, he's begging for the benediction of 1,000,000 ears. Who else was begging for the benediction of 1,000,000 ears? Srila Rupa Goswami. He said, when I chant the holy names, I wish that I had millions of ears just to hear. To come to the point where when we're chanting, this is another thing Srila Prabhupada said, that when we chant the holy names, it should be simply a conversation between the tongue and the ears. And your ears should be eager to hear, and your tongue should be eager to chant. And he said, and in that situation, where is the mind? There is no mind. It's simply a conversation. We should be eager. And Rupa Goswami, so eager to hear. And then he wished he had thousands of tongues to chant the holy name so that his thousands of ears could hear. This is the eagerness with which we should want to hear. And when we chant, again, Srila Prabhupada explained, simply we have to listen. We simply have to listen to the sound vibration of the holy name. Very often when we're chanting, the hearing process is not really happening. And this is reflected also in our lives. Very often, we may appear that we're hearing, but we're probably not really listening. My mother used to say that to me. You have selective hearing. You hear what you want. And we do that also. We chant Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Does this look familiar to anyone? Anyone does this? You don't have to raise your hands. We wouldn't want you to be embarrassed. Hare Krishna. But we should really be listening to every syllable. So this Shravanam. And what is it that we're listening to? We're listening to the nectar, the nectarian beverage of the lotus feet of the Lord. And now, Prithu Maharaj, he continues. And this, okay. It was there a minute ago. I had them both up. Let me just see. Oh, my thing is quite low. Let's see if it connects here. I did that on purpose just to keep you all in suspense. All of you are like, we want to hear. We want to hear. Okay. Seems to be connected. There we go. So text 25. Translation, again in the interest of time. My dear Lord, you are glorified by the selected verses uttered by great personalities. Uttama Shloka. Such glorification of your lotus feet is just like saffron particles. When the transcendental vibration from the mouths of great devotees carries the aroma of the saffron dust of your lotus feet, the forgetful living entity gradually remembers his eternal relationship with you. Devotees thus gradually come to the right conclusion about the value of life. My dear Lord, I therefore do not need any other benediction but the opportunity to hear from the mouth of your pure devotee. So Prithu Maharaj is making such a poetic description of the sound vibration. So when we hear about Krishna, hearing about Krishna is compared to saffron dust particles. So these saffron particles, right? And saffron comes from where? Flower. Because Krishna's feet are like lotuses. So from his lotus feet, these saffron particles, they enter into the ear, and describes that from the aroma, right? You know the aroma of saffron? It's very sweet, right? So again, the ears are performing another function that isn't usual to the ears, right? The ears are smelling the aroma of the saffron particles emanating from the lotus feet of the Lord, which are actually coming from the mouths of the devotees who are speaking about him. And what is the effect that this sound vibration has? That it transforms the heart. Who here feels that simply because we met a devotee that spoke to us about Krishna, some of us may have been born in the family of devotees, but probably most of us, we were living our lives happily until some Hare Krishna either tried to give us a book or talk to us about Krishna in some way. And somehow when we heard something that they said, it was like something started knocking inside. Anyone's had that kind of experience? My friend, he was preaching to me. We were friends since we were teenagers, and we were in our early 20s. And then he started preaching to me, and I was like, dude, I got a good job. I make good money. I do what I want with my life. I'm happy. And he used to say to me, I know you're not happy. Jai Shishi Nimai Nitai Ki Jai Shishi Radha Sham Sundar Ki. They're happy. And then we would argue, I'm happy. Can't you see how happy I am? And I was like, I would brag, I make 4 times what you and your wife earn together. And he would say, you're still not happy. And we would argue. And then he would always bring some prasad. Of course, I didn't know what it was, but we would argue. And then I'd say, anyway, did you bring any of that Hare Krishna food? I like that. And so he would share some Hare Krishna food. Little did I know, he was dropping the bombs. But when he would go away, when he would leave, the first thought that always came to mind is, how does he know I'm not happy? How does he know that my heart is aching for something and I don't even know what it is? No matter how much money, no matter how many things I do, how many ticks I put on my bucket list, still there's an emptiness that I can't seem to fill no matter what I do. And I would think everything that he says makes so much sense, but I can't let him be right. Why? Because I have to be right. How could I be wrong? I'm doing all the things that society says I should do to be happy. And look at him. He's leading such a simple life. They hardly have anything, But I was earning 4 times what he was earning, but I was like $4,000 in debt. And they had $4,000 in the bank in savings. And I used to think, how does that work? Because I was trying to enjoy, to be happy. But they were simply happy. They didn't need to spend. They were living very simply. So when the devotee starts to speak about Krishna, and we would argue philosophically, but he would always come back to the Bhagavad Gita says, the Bhagavad Gita says. And I was like, why are you always quoting from the same book? And then I would make stuff up, speculate. So the devotee talks about Krishna, and these saffron particles, it enters into our heart, and slowly but surely it transforms us. This is why, as the devotee earlier was saying, it's so important. We have been given such a beautiful gift. We have been gifted. We have no understanding of the value of the gift that we've been given of Krishna consciousness. We really have no understanding of the intense austerity that Srila Prabhupada performed to give us this gift. What he went through to give us this gift, what he went through to translate the books so that we could hear. All he wanted to do was create an atmosphere where people could hear. What is it Krishna says? I think in the 7.1 of Bhagavad Gita, he says, touch tree new. Just hear. Just hear. And he doesn't mean hear. He means listen. Let's not just hear. Let's really listen. Deeply. Srila Prabhupada said we should read his books with what kind of attention? Rapt attention. Rapt attention. Like we watch TV. Like we watch movies. One of the devotees, one of the brahmacharis in the ashram, when we used to distribute books, he used to say to people on the street, he would hand them a Bhagavatam 1.1, and he would say, especially at Christmas time, he would say, don't waste your money on a home entertainment system. This is the home entertainment system right here. Everything you need, all the excitement, right? The Bhagavatam from beginning to end. If you like everyone likes violence, I mean, you can't get any more violent than the Bhagavatam. You know, everyone likes intrigue and romance, and it's all there in the Bhagavatam. We just need to read, and we need to hear and allow the leelas to awaken within our heart, right? The more that we hear, the more that we understand, the more that we realize. And this is really the essence and the secret of Krishna consciousness, is to close this and open these. My friend used to preach, and I used to always argue, the tongue likes to wiggle, you know. But actually we need to just try to genuinely hear. So, in this purport, Srila Prabhupada explains, it's a little long, but I will read some of it. It is explained in the previous verse that one has to hear glorification of the Lord from the mouth of a pure devotee. And I'm sorry about that, you're not hearing from a pure devotee here, but we are hearing from the pure devotee here. Srila Prabhupada is speaking. This is further explained here. The transcendental vibration from the mouth of a pure devotee is so powerful that it can revive the living entity's memory of his eternal relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Because we're in an amnesic state. We're in a state of forgetfulness, right? Who here forgets Krishna? Anyone's ever forgotten Krishna? Okay. If you aren't raising your hand now, I'm really concerned, okay? No, I'm not concerned. I'm amazed at the potency of Ramchandra Prabhu, that everyone here is always remembering Krishna, right? Who here ever drinks water? Anyone drinks water? Yeah, right? When you drink water, do you remember Krishna? No. But shouldn't we? What does Krishna say? He says, Rasoham apsakunteya. Krishna. It's that easy. But guess what? We don't do it. At least I don't. I drink juggle, 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 and I don't think about Krishna. And Krishna says He's the taste and water. We walk outside, we see the light of the sun. Krishna says, I am the light of the sun and the moon. And you're very fortunate in this country, you get to see the sun and moon. I lived in England for 30 years. You don't get to see either, most of the time. So that's why I'm so forgetful. So we can remember Krishna, so we smaranam. But how do we smaranam? Because we have Sravanam. We have heard. In our material existence, under the influence of illusory Maya, we have almost forgotten our eternal relationship with the Lord, exactly like a man sleeping very deeply who forgets his duties. In the Vedas, it is said that every one of us is sleeping under the influence of Maya. We must get up, Jiv Jago, from this slumber and engage in the right service. For thus we can properly utilize the facility of this human form of life. As expressed in a song by Thakur Bhaktivinoda, Lord Chaitanya says, Jiv Jago, Jiv Jago. The Lord asks every sleeping living entity to get up and engage in devotional service so that his mission in this human form of life may be fulfilled. This awakening voice comes through the mouth of the pure devotee. This Jiv Jago isn't for Lord Chaitanya. It isn't for Srila Prabhupada. They're already woken. They're already awake. I think that's a big term now in modern day, to say you're woke. It gets me confused because I think, wow, that's what I want to be, woke. But then people say, no, you don't want to be woke. It's a derogatory term. But we want to be woke in a positive way. We want to be woke to Krishna. We want to be woke to transcendental knowledge. We want to be woken to a loving relationship with the Lord. A pure devotee always engages in the service of the Lord, taking shelter of His lotus feet, and therefore he has a direct connection with the saffron mercy particles. So they've added now mercy. There's saffron mercy particles. It's just pure mercy. This sound vibration is pure mercy that's being given to us for our benefit. And they are strewn over the lotus feet of the Lord. Although when a pure devotee speaks, the articulation of his voice may resemble the sound of this material sky. The voice is spiritually very powerful because it touches the particles of saffron dust on the lotus feet of the Lord. So beautiful, huh? So beautiful. As soon as a sleeping living entity hears the powerful voice emanating from the mouth of a pure devotee, he immediately remembers his eternal relationship with the Lord, although up until that moment he had forgotten everything. For a conditioned soul, therefore, it is very important to hear from the mouth of a pure devotee who is fully surrendered to the lotus feet of the Lord without any material desire, speculative knowledge, or contamination of the modes of material nature. Every one of us is kuyogi because we have engaged in the service of this material world. Kuyogis. People are kuyogis, right? Yogi. Everyone wants to be a yogi. Everywhere you go in Manhattan, everyone's walking around with a yoga mat. It's a big thing. They all want to be yogis. Every one of us is kuyogi. Because we have engaged in the service of this material world, forgetting our eternal relationship with the Lord as His eternal loving servants. It is our duty to rise from the Kuyoga platform to the Suyogis, perfect mystics. The process of hearing from a pure devotee is recommended in all Vedic scriptures, especially by Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. One may stay in his position of life. This is very important. One may stay in his position of life it does not matter what it is. But if one hears from the mouth of a pure devotee, he gradually comes to the understanding of his relationship with the Lord and thus engages in his loving service. And his life becomes completely perfect. Therefore, this process of hearing from the mouth of a pure devotee is very important for making progress in the line of spiritual understanding. So now what we just did is we read. And I don't know, often we hear reading. Whenever I read, especially out loud a purport, I get the feeling and the sense in the room that it's like when we were a little kid and our nanny or grandma used to read bedtime stories to us. And it's like, And I'm sure if I kept reading it, eventually it'd be like, you'd hear a few snores. Like on Janmashtami, right, in New Vrindavan when Prabhupada was present and it was midnight and the devotees were like, Haribo! They were saying Haribo because they'd been fasting all day and they were saying, Haribo! Midnight has come! Haribo! The birth of Krishna in his most magnanimous form. Prasadam. And the devotees were all excited. And then Prabhupada said, let's read Krishna book. And he read the first chapter. And the devotees described the dandas were going like this. And then he read second chapter, and Prabhupada was just reading, relishing the saffron particles. But it's like Rupa Goswami describes the hearing of the holy name, we have no taste. We're jaundice. For us it's not sweet, it's bitter. Prasadam is sweet. Hearing, not always so sweet, right? But we have to cultivate this taste. Because what is the cure for the jaundice? It's more chanting, more hearing. So we should also come together. Someone started yawning. I was like, oh! We have to come together and also hear and chant regularly. And I'm sure all of you are doing that. We like to encourage devotees to read regularly Srila Prabhupada's books. As Prabhupada said, we don't just distribute my books, but you should be also reading my books. But it's not always so easy. So one thing we started, and this is part of the hearing process, because when we read, we're hearing, is during lockdown, I think we started WhatsApp groups, different WhatsApp groups for reading. And we weren't reading together, but we would decide a book to read, and following on the Be a Sage page by page, we would read 4 pages a day, minimum. That's it, just 4 pages. How long does it take to read 4 pages of any book? Anyone knows? 10 to 12 minutes. Who here has 10 or 12 minutes to spare? I'm sure no one. You're all too busy scrolling, right? That's what we do. We scroll hours. We scroll for no purpose, but we don't have time to read. We don't have time to hear. But we started this group, these groups, and 4 pages, and then whenever you read in the day, then you just share a short reflection. Not like a whole Bhagavatam purport. Just, from today's reading, I really liked how it spoke about saffron particles. I thought that was so poetic. I really liked that. That's it. Just sharing some reflection. This also means that I'm actively listening because I'm then repeating back something that I've heard. Right? And so we started this and devotees were like, okay. Not everyone can keep up with 4 pages a day. It's amazing how busy jivas are. But those who did, we were like, wow, this is great. And we found that 4 pages a day, reading the Nectar of Instruction, you finish in about 15 days. And then you've read a book. And then we moved on to another book, and another book, and another book. And now we're still continuing 5 years later, and we're reading Brihad Bhagavatamrita. Because we finished, except for Bhagavatam and Chaitanya Charitamrita, we've read all of Srila Prabhupada's books in 4 years. I never read so many books. In the 10 years I was in the Brahmachari ashram, and now just 4 pages a day, reading and sharing with devotees. It's such an important and special thing. So I mean, you may all already be doing this, but wherever I go, I really like to encourage, and especially because the topic is Sravanam, that we have to be hearing. This is the medicine. Whether we like it or not, we have to accept we're in the material world and we're sick. We're sick. Actually, we're not sick enough of the material world, right? But we're in the material world. Prabhupada said if you have a human body, you're in the material world, you should have a word tattooed across your forehead. Anyone remembers what that word is? Criminal. He said you should have the word criminal tattooed across your forehead, because we've come here simply to enjoy Krishna's property, like a thief. So we're sick, and the cure is to hear, to cultivate the spiritual knowledge. And the more that we do that, the more taste we get, the more we want to hear, the more we actually find that we're really genuinely listening, like that. Hare Krishna. So I was asked to stop at 45 past, and I think I have accomplished the goal. I'm sorry it's 46 past, so I'm 1 minute late. I hope that I won't get chastised too bad for that. My wife is surprised that I stopped anywhere near on time, because I hardly ever do. So, because I also talk too much and don't listen enough. A lesson to all the husbands out there. Less of this and more of these. So I don't know if there's time for any reflections or questions. Okay.
Anybody has any questions?
The question is, will the question prevent us from taking prasadam? No problem. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, class. So, when you mentioned that devotees in London, that last 24 hours, if you had, what would you do?
Yeah.
Similarly, if somebody knows that this is their last moments, then what is more important? Hearing, chanting, or just remembering?
Beautiful, nice question. So what should we be trying to do? Well, actually, in one sense, it all starts with hearing. Because when you're chanting, you should also be hearing. And sometimes, as we get closer to the time of death, our capacity for chanting becomes less. Even our capacity for remembering may become less. At the moment, I'm interacting with one devotee who's developed Alzheimer's. And he's sharing with me now that he finds reading is, he used to love to read. He would read for hours every day. And he says, now I don't retain anything. I can't remember anything. But I'm encouraging him, still read. So other faculties may go. Of course, as we get old, our hearing may also go. But hearing is the key. We should be hearing more and more and more. And also trying to chant and also trying to remember. So they're all very, as Prabhupada would say, they're all packed up tightly together. So one feeds the other. But actually they all start with hearing. In one sense, the chanting is of no relevance if no one can hear. Because it's not necessarily about the chanting, it's about the hearing of the chanting. That's meant to go into our ears and into our heart. That's what's being said here. The vibration of the pastimes of the Lord are meant to be heard, not just vibrated. And the speaker is also meant to be hearing. And then that evokes smaranam, remembering. So like that. That's my answer. But you may have a better answer or a different answer. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Thank you all very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. Jai Nitai. Gauda Premanandi. Hari Hari Bol.